Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Monday, October 25th, and we're here to give our weekly update on Westchester County issues. I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, who will be presenting with me. We've had some technical difficulties, some access issues, so it took us a little while to try to work through this, and we're taking it in this format. We'll be unable to take any press questions online, but we're happy to respond to any members of the press who may be watching this. You can contact Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communications, at 995-2932. Absent that, we have a very straightforward, fairly short report today to just cover some of the basic grounds. We begin, as we usually do, with our COVID numbers. In Westchester County, the COVID numbers continue on a 2-month downward trajectory. The most recent numbers show slightly over 1,100 active cases. That's down from a peak of 2,800 cases in August. We have approximately 50 people in an oscillating number between 50 and 60 over the last 3 weeks in terms of those who are hospitalized. That number is fairly low compared to peak numbers in the height of the pandemic of 500 and 600 people. The more recent August peak, we had about 100 some odd people, 110 people hospitalized, and so now we're ranging about half of that in the 50 to 55 range. Goes up a couple of days, goes down a couple of days. No particular trend line there. Fatalities, we've had for a period of time 2 weeks without any fatalities. We have had 5 fatalities just in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So the numbers were down low, then spiked back up again. On the average, we're 2,340 plus fatalities, but the numbers have been somewhat less over the course of the last increase in the pandemic. The concerns that we have, I think, have been shown to be addressed best by the amount of vaccinations that we have in the county. Over 90%, approaching 91% of our adult population, 18 years of age and older, have received at least one vaccine dose, and the totality of the population that represented by at least one dose is 746,746 people. The number of people that have completed their vaccination series, a little less than that, 672,065 people. And we're still having each week a certain number of people getting vaccinations for the first time. This past week we had over 200 people vaccinated for the first time. And of course that number doesn't compare to what we had in the beginning of the vaccination period, because now we're down really to that last group of people, under 10% of the population, that are very hesitant to vaccine or they're completely resistant to vaccination. But we've done very well for ourselves. You're seeing the Just the Facts We're Vaxxed campaign, where we're showing the various departments of county government. We recently had 100% of the labs and research department, and we've had other departments that have hit 100%. And we've done all of this without any vaccination mandate. There is no vaccination mandate expected to come. We've had good success doing what we've done, which is making vaccinations easily available in a wide variety of geographies by making sure that testing is easily available. And particularly, we've worked closely with our school districts in that regard. And then also providing PPE, masks particularly, and hand sanitizer in a host of different settings. We've done a series of mask distributions to those schools that have them to satisfy the state mandate, and then also at various locations where people congregate, such as food pantries and elsewhere, try to provide those things free of charge so that we can get as many people as healthy as we can. And the drop in infection, we think, is a good indicative sign of that. We are waiting to see what happens as we get into the colder weather. Weather started to turn a little bit the last week or so. We'll see where it goes as we tend to come more indoors. And then also with the various holidays that are coming up. Halloween is coming at the end of the week on Sunday. We'll see Thanksgiving a few weeks after that. And then after that, the Christmas season, New Year's season. Last year, we had a rise in infections that started just before Halloween and went up significantly higher. But nobody was vaccinated at that time. This time we have vaccinations. And now we know that booster shots are available. And we'll talk about all of these things just very briefly. We are providing a series of satellite locations, pop-up locations. They're available. You can go online to look at those locations at westchestergov.com/, and you'll get the information. There are some that are currently listed. We have one coming up this week at the Charter School for Educational Excellence at 260 Warburton Avenue in Yonkers. That's an early evening time frame. And a first dose Pfizer vaccination clinic available for those 12 and older at the Lewisboro Town Court, and that is scheduled on the 29th of the month from 3:30 to 6:30. There'll be others coming up. We have some scheduled for the months of November. We'll try to highlight them when we're in the week for the week, and we think that will be appropriate information. But on our COVID plans, we continue to meet with school districts on a weekly basis, with municipal governments at least twice a month, talk about how we're going to get vaccinations, testing, where necessary PPE, address these issues. Some people have written us and said, why don't you mandate vaccination requirements at a restaurant the way New York City does? Westchester County does not have the same authority, nor does any county, that New York City does. New York City operates in a different context with the mayor of New York City. Mayor of New York City runs the schools of New York City. Mayor of City of New York runs hospitals in New York City. We have none of those authorities as a county government, and that is reflected in other elements of what the county does, because we have home rule and we have villages and towns and cities as well within the county structure. So we're doing those things that we think are practical, and we're getting a very positive result from our COVID campaign. We hope to continue that as we go forward. I want to highlight that there was a passage by the Westchester County Board of Legislators of a climate emergency declaration. It was passed unanimously by the board, meaning a bipartisan support of the board. And I think what it does as a resolution is it highlights the urgency to act to deal with the potential of catastrophic climate change. There's a host of different things that we need to do in Westchester County to improve our green infrastructure. We've already placed electrical vehicle charging stations at many county-owned facilities. We have land at the North White Plains Suburban Rail Station. We've had some there. We put them up in Mohansick and Hudson Hills and a number of our other parks, golf courses, and our climate crisis task force has been put in place. We're working on food scrap recycling and solar collection, a host of things that would represent what we as a government of our size and scope can do to start the process of addressing the climate crisis. But there's so many more things that we can do, and this designation allows us to continue the work that we have and to think longer term than just this next year or the year after that, this budget. The fighting of the climate crisis is going to need to be a worldwide response, and it's going to need to be an ongoing response. But we have a role to play in that, and that's what we're trying to do. And we salute the Board of Legislators' passage of the Climate Emergency Declaration. I want to highlight a little bit about Memorial Field in the city of Mount Vernon. We have been making progress as an administration, working with the city of Mount Vernon to do something that we promised we would do 4 years ago, which would be to take what was once a proud arena, Memorial Field, where there was football games and concerts and track events, and return it back to usable status. It had lay fallow for over a decade. There was a commitment made by the county and the city to work together. Different decision makers came along and adjusted the decisions, and by the time 10 years had passed by, nothing was done. So a couple of years ago, we made the decision that the county would be directly involved. We would get the job done, and that's what's happening right now. If you pass by Memorial Field on Sanford Boulevard, which is right over the border from Pelham, right alongside the Hudson River Parkway, you will see rising up above the sight line of the fencing a superstructure, steel structure that represents the grandstands. Then there's going to be a media booth that's going to sit on top of that. That's going to go up in a few days. And if you go up into the parking lot overlooking Memorial Field, you'll be able to look down and see some of the progress that's been made, and also some of the clips that we're providing, which we think would be helpful for people to understand the progress we've made. We do not want the project to be rushed. We are not trying to hit some imaginary deadline date for public relations purposes. When the park is substantially completed or completed, we will then have a media tour so everybody can see it, but people can see that there's really been progress made on this initial commitment, this significant commitment we made early in our administration. And it has a personal resonance to me, as I've talked about often. I was a graduate of the Mount Vernon High School public school system. I grew up in the south side of the community. I played sports at Memorial Field. It was once configured for baseball back in the 60s. And I played baseball there. I was part of the high school cohort that was on that field. Got my high school diploma on that field. And I remember the iconic stands that was the basis for the Mean Joe Green commercial. Pittsburgh Steelers football player who got a Coke, tossed a jersey to a kid, and it became one of advertising's greatest TV commercials of its day. And we hope that we can return that to that location. This is a matter of personal commitment. We made the commitment, and we honor the commitment made by one of my predecessors, Andy Spano, to former Mayor Clinton Young, and we're trying to deliver that in this day in real time. Progress is being made. We hope you see it, and we hope you get a sense of the progress that we're working on. Let's show some of the video now as what we're referring to. I remember this field as a young boy. It at one point was configured for Little League Baseball in the far northern part of the field. I've seen this set up for Mount Vernon High School football games when I was in high school. I received my high school diploma on this field over 50 years ago.
Memorial Field is iconic. I mean, this is where the Mean Joe Green commercial was filmed. Michael Jackson performed here.
And then to see it lay fallow for 10 years plus, to know that there was no movement, there was no decision-making process. The people of Mount Vernon, had this sense that it was all a joke, government can't function.
There are generations that are looking for the return, and there are other generations that are looking to be introduced to Memorial Field for the first time. This is the jewel of Mount Vernon.
Now, as you start to see this come together, you realize that it is possible, that this thing can have a renaissance, it can have a rebirth, and this is symbolic of what I think the rebirth of Mount Vernon is.
They pull up and look off the top of Target and Best Buy parking lot so that they can see some of the progress.
We're currently in the process of assembling the skeleton of the grandstands. Underneath the grandstands, the masonry structures and the buildings are being constructed.
It's now starting to look like a field. The skeleton or the infrastructure of the grandstand is up now. We can see where the field is going to be.
You'll start to see the track transformation start to take place, where you see the outside and inside lanes of the track. We'll begin working on a field. If you're looking from a vantage point from the grandstands, it will start to look like a stadium.
Young people who play sports on this field find in playing sports the discipline that advances them in life. They go on to college, advanced education, or they go on to professional careers, and they have successful lives, and sports is part of it, and this arena represents that. This arena will be a mecca for music, and some people find their career and their future in music. So this helps the development of the next generation of people who live in this community.
The activities on site will ramp up, so the average person looking at it with the naked eye can actually see the stadium, the bowl, the field, the running tracks.
We hope to give this field the kind of quality look where Section 1 would say, let's go to Memorial Field to have our Section 1 playoffs in the same way that we like Section 1 basketball to come into the county center for their playoffs. So this has an opportunity to have a wide-ranging benefit for people in Mount Vernon and all across the county.
This is like a fantastic day in the city of Mount Vernon, knowing that Memorial Field, we're going to get it done.
We'll have a good time when the Mount Vernon Knights take the field, whomever their opponent is. I suppose, even though I'm a graduate of Mount Vernon, I have to root for both sides if it's a Westchester team. And as we make progress on the Memorial Field project, we are looking for completion in 2022. We will not be able to see it open certainly until at the very earliest the spring of 22. And then there are some issues that may or may not have it open earlier rather than later. David Proper from LOHUD, the Journal News, asked a question about the prospective opening date. So we don't have a hard and fast date. We certainly want to make sure it's completely properly constructed before we open it. We certainly expect it to be open for the football season in the fall of 2022. And of course, that field will be used for football purposes, track and field, and others. But at this point, we don't have a firm opening date. We'll certainly share that once we have a good projection that we think we'll be able to hit. And when that happens, we'll certainly have a celebratory moment at Memorial Field. Many times when we give these updates, sometimes I feel like we're doing what our friend Lisa Reyes did for many years, which is be on television and a nightly newscast. So if that was George Latimer with the sports, then I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to come on and talk about the weather, because we do have another storm front that we're anticipating, which could bring some severe weather to Westchester County. Ken.
Thanks, George. And we want to start with making sure to remind people that this is a nor'easter that is coming in. It's not a named storm, but that does not mean that it's less dangerous. And to remind people of what happened with Hurricane Ida, which was hundreds of miles away from Westchester County, and most people thought it was going to be a rain event, and quite frankly, some people may have taken it for granted that it was just going to be a rain event. And those flash flooding things that happened with the amount of water and the saturation that was already on the ground at that point in time caused significant damage and, unfortunately, loss of life in Westchester County. So we want everyone to pay attention to this weather event, nor'easter, that's going to be happening over the next 3 days. So this evening, from Monday night until Wednesday morning, Westchester, we're asking all the Westchester residents, county executive wants to make sure that everyone is taking the extra precautions. That means to work closely with everyone, pay attention to the monitoring things that are happening. If you can sign up for a service from either Con Ed or from NYSEG, to make sure that you sign up for those services that can give you the text notifications and let you know when there's power outages in your area. If you travel on any of the highways and byways or the roads in Westchester County, remember, if it has a body of water in its name, it may likely flood. So you should take care and make sure to take that extra time and extra precautions. Our Department of Emergency Services is monitoring the forecast closely, and it's going to increase its staffing capacities in the county's emergency operations centers over this evening to continuously monitor the situation, watch for local impacts to the storm, and coordinate certainly with the county executive and the entire team in the event that they are needed. So additionally, because of the rain that's expected tomorrow, the FEMA sites from Hurricane Ida are going to be modified. The one in Ossining that was scheduled to be in Ossining tomorrow is going to be closed. So that was a mobile site that was going to be closed in Ossining. The Mamaroneck facility is going to continue to be open because that is indoors. Again, make sure to govern yourselves accordingly. Remember, rainfall totals between 2 inches and 4 inches locally, potentially higher amounts that are going to happen through tomorrow evening with wind gusts of 20 to 30 mile an hour. It is a nor'easter. If it was the winter, we would be talking about a significant snow event. So again, be careful. Make sure that you put those things in your car that you need. Put those batteries in the flashlight, and also make sure that if you are driving, fill up the car, put water in the car, make sure that you have all those things that are essential. Put that battery charger for your phone in the car as well, just in case you need that. Make sure that you take care and listen to all of the announcements as they come through. Thanks, George. That was the weather.
Thank you. Ken Jenkins. We would like to highlight particularly that, and we've seen this now with Hurricane Ida and previously Hurricane Henri. When we talk about getting rain totals between 2 to 4 inches of rain, if we get that upper number, 4 inches of rain, we are most likely going to close the Bronx River Parkway, and we will look to see what happens on the Hutchinson River Parkway and the Sawmill River Parkway, both of which flood. We have the capacity as a county government to close the Bronx River Parkway since we own it and operate it. We do not own or operate the Sawmill or the Hutch, but anybody who's a normal driver on those roadways know that those roadways flood fairly easily. So be very aware that when the rain starts to pour down, we can have flooding conditions, and we will urge you, just as Ken did a second ago, stay home. If you don't have to go out of the house, particularly in the overnight hours, if you know that you are someplace remote and you have to get home, try to do it as early as you can so you're not out there at night. We have county parkway police patrols. Our county public safety department patrols the parkways, not the interstates. The interstates are done by the state police, but on the parkways to help rescue drivers. But we put our people in jeopardy when you decide that you can drive through heavy standing water when you don't really know how much the standing water is. And once the car becomes disabled, now you are not just dealing with a car that is no longer going to function, you are putting your life in jeopardy, and we have to have somebody from our emergency services response team put their life in jeopardy to save you. So the better strategy is do not go out during this period of time unless you absolutely have to. If you do, remember that the parkways, Ken made this point, these parkways flood very easily, and they will flood again. They'll flood tonight or tomorrow night, and take that into account. Know your alternate routes. You know, if the Bronx River Parkway is going to be closed, know that you have Route 22 between Eastchester and Scarsdale that can get you to White Plains. You have Central Avenue and Yonkers that can get you pretty close. Be prepared under whatever those circumstances are. Reinforce that message. I'm going to close with public service information relative to early voting. You may recall that in 2019, the New York State Legislature passed early voting provisions in New York State, which did not previously exist. And we were the 38th state to adopt early voting procedures. 37 other states already had them in place. Our system is now underway as we are 8 days away from the next general election, which comes on Tuesday, November 2nd. There are judicial races. There are county-level races. Some cities have city races. There are towns and a couple of village races as well. Some are contested, some are not contested. But there's a host of different positions that are on the ballot depending on where you live and whatever the competitive circumstances are there. And then you turn the ballot over and you will find 5 state propositions and 1 county proposition for you to vote yes or no on. And you would be wise to start to read up about them before you go into the voting booth. It's not possible for you to just to read the abstract that's on the ballot and understand all the nuances of it. So I encourage you, go to the various websites that exist out there. All you have to do is enter, New York State propositions, and you'll get a host of articles that you can read that will tell you the yin and the yang of each of these different proposals. That is the 5 state proposals. There is 1 Westchester County proposal, which passed the Board of Legislators, and I signed unanimously to toughen our ethics laws. Read up on that. League of Women Voters is fully supportive of it. You can take a look at that. And then depending on where you live, there may be some local propositions. There's one in Mount Kisco and there's some in other places. But this is your opportunity as a citizen to express your opinion. You can go on Facebook and comment. You can show up at a public meeting and comment. You can write letters to the editor. You can write letters to me. They can be flattering. They can be unflattering. But the single best tool you have to determine what you want to see happen in the government is your right to vote. A majority of people will make the determination as to who wins and what the status of these referendum will be. But your point of view, whatever it is, gets expressed as part of the larger whole when you vote. So early voting is underway today. Monday is the 3rd day of early voting. Early voting will continue until Sunday, Halloween Sunday, which is the 31st of the month. And on that Sunday, the polls will be open from 12 to 5. There will be no early voting a week from today, Monday, November 1st. That there's a break. And then on Tuesday, November 2nd, is a normal election day. Polls open at 6 a.m. and they go to 9 p.m. In terms of early voting, you can vote anywhere in Westchester County at any of the 23 voting locations. And there are 6 more voting locations this year than we had last year. Last year, of course, is a presidential race, and that generates the most attendance by far. We had over 450,000 Westchester residents come out to vote in the presidential race. In a cycle like this, we hover above or below 200,000 votes, and good years over 200,000 votes. A low turnout year would be under 200,000 votes cast countywide compared to 400 plus in a presidential race. People prioritize what they prioritize. There's lots of different locations. You'll find all the locations if you go on the Westchester Gov website, look at Board of Elections, and you'll find it. You'll find it at the League of Women Voters. You'll find it in a host of other areas. But all over the county, if you live in the city of Mount Vernon, you can vote early at Mount Vernon City Hall, just over the border on the north side. You can vote at the Dole Center off of 4th Street and 6th Avenue on the south side of Mount Vernon. You can vote at 90 Beaufort Place, the annex portion of New Rochelle City Hall behind the main entrance to City Hall on 90 Beaufort Place. Greenburgh Town Hall is a place to vote. Dobbs Ferry Village Hall is a place to vote. The Townhouse in Pound Ridge is a place you can early vote. Rybrook Firehouse on King Street, St. Gregory the Great's Community Room in Harrison is a place you can vote. Mamaroneck Town Center is a place you can vote. And here in White Plains at the Westchester County Board of Elections office at 25 Coropa Street. And that's only a fraction of the places that you can vote. You'll find a place either that's close to where you live or close to where you work. I happen to live in the city of Rye, and I happen to work in downtown White Plains. I could vote in downtown White Plains if I want. I can vote nearest to Rye in either Harrison and Rybrook or in Mamaroneck or any number of other places. You're entitled to do that, and we encourage you. Look at all the choices in front of you, make the best choice, and we look forward to the voice of the people, and that will be determined. We will be back here next Monday at 2 o'clock for our update. We expect to be back with you in the next couple of days for a variety of different announcements. We will be in New Rochelle on Wednesday to sort of talk about the initiative that is underway to create West Side access for Westchester commuters on the New Haven line. In due time, they'll be able to get on a train at their stops in New Rochelle, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, Harrison, Rye, Portchester, and go either to Grand Central Station, which is the current route, or go to Penn Station, depending on which train is coming at which particular time. That's coming on the Sound Shore side of the county. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday. We're going to talk a little bit tomorrow about some of the capital projects we've done with labor and the organized effort of labor to effectively create public projects of the highest level with safety and professionalism. We'll also be presenting some of the highlights of the budget that we expect to release in about 2 weeks, which will give you an idea of the 2022 budget. And that will at least give you a little flavor of what's coming up, tease it out a little bit so you'll have some idea of what's going on. The capital budget, which was released 2 weeks ago, is before the Board of Legislators for their consideration. We will be releasing the operating budget and the special districts budgets, which include the refuse district and the various sewer treatment districts. All of that we'll give you a little teaser, I think, on Thursday of this week. And then again, we'll be back here next Monday, as I've said. Ken and I don't know if we'll make him do the weather, and I'll do the sports. We'll flip. And if we can have a guest join us on that day, we will. But in the meantime, I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. Be safe, and we'll be speaking to you in the days to come. Have a wonderful day.